They discovered the letter the morning after Christmas, perched neatly on the fireplace ledge between a chipped porcelain angel and a dusty snow globe I'd once given them, still cloudy from years of neglect. It wasn't sealed in an envelope, just sitting there like it had been waiting all along. The first scream came from my mother. My father's voice echoed right after, angry and shaky. My brother's wife just froze, her lips parting like she was choking on secrets she couldn't swallow. I wasn't there to watch it happen. That was the point. On Christmas Eve, while the family gathered at their grand table, I was elbow-deep in surgery, trying to stop a young man's liver from spilling his life away after a street brawl went wrong. That's my reality. I don't get cozy holidays. I get fluorescent lights, cold coffee, and a symphony of machines screaming for attention. Around 9:30, I texted my son, asked him how dinner was going. No response. At first I brushed it off, spotty Wi-Fi, too much dessert, maybe he left his phone in the car. But when I finally stumbled home after the shift, he was there, curled on the couch in his suit, eyes red, his tie undone, his voice barely holding. "They said there wasn't enough space," he whispered. The word space cracked like glass leaving his throat, as though he needed permission to exist in his grandparents' home. I sat beside him, brewed tea we didn't drink, and let silence fill the room. The rage I felt wasn't loud. It was cold, precise, calculated. I'd seen this kind of cruelty before, hidden under polite smiles and cutting remarks, but this time I refused to look away. When I had him at 19, they swore I had destroyed my life, told me I was selfish, told me he was nothing but a mistake I'd regret. But they were wrong. He became the one thing I was certain about in this world. They never forgave me for loving him more than their approval. For them, he was a permanent blemish they tiptoed around, never daring to admit they saw him as less. Till now. Until Christmas. I didn't fight. I didn't scream. That's what they wanted. Instead I turned clinical, cold as steel. A week later I filed the paperwork. Years ago my father co-signed my med school loans, always reminding me that without him, I'd have been nothing. What he didn't know was that last year I had refinanced and paid off every cent. The lien release had already been signed. Quietly, strategically, I'd severed the last chain he thought still bound me. 4 years I had been quietly covering their crises. Property taxes, hospital bills, even my mother's cosmetic surgery. Money I kept track of down to the penny. What they thought were gifts, I had documented as loans. My brother's family too. He had begged me to co-sign his daughter's tuition. He thought I'd do it blindly. Instead I signed something else. A contract they could never escape. And then came the letter. Just one page. Just one truth. I'm not angry. I'm awake. You had one job, love him. That seat you denied him at your table. Cost you every seat at mine. I included an itemized record of every cent owed, and gave them 90 days. No contact. No bargaining. No forgiveness. Just terms. On Christmas morning I made pancakes with my son. We wore pajamas all day, watched Home Alone, and opened gifts we bought for each other with silly hints and laughter. He didn't know what I was dismantling behind the scenes, and he didn't need to. He just needed to feel like a kid again, wanted safe enough. The phone calls started soon after. Voicemails piled up like debris from a storm. How could you do this to us? Don't ruin your family over a misunderstanding. Think of your father's health. Not once did they say his name. Not once did they apologize. They thought guilt was still my leash, that I was still that frightened teenager they once cornered, waving ultimatums like threats. But I wasn't her anymore. I cut things for a living. Tumors, arteries, infections, and sometimes people. Clean, necessary, final. On the 91st day, a check arrived in the mail. Not the full sum, but enough. Enough to prove they understood this was real. They weren't buying forgiveness. They were buying silence. Now holidays are quiet but warm. 2 mugs of cocoa, 1 small table filled with burnt cookies and laughter. There's always room. I don't miss them. I miss the illusion that they were ever worth missing. But illusions don't keep you alive. Love does. And he's enough. Always enough.